has done, that they omit everything in the law except tithes because they want money, and they teach prosperity doctrine. And there's so many crooked pastors. There's so many, you understand, like the one in Brooklyn who was robbing the congregation for 90,000, and then he got robbed and wants to cry. Like if y'all tune into Black Watch last night, Captain Mashak, Captain Nayathak, Captain Kahun, Captain Ashaparium, myself, Captain Zanaya, and Napataza, Captain Napataza out in Cincinnati. We did a show last night where we were talking about a pastor who he was crying about a Movado watch that he did not get, because they do not go and return anything back to the people. You understand? They're just greedy dogs that just fill their own bellies. So because of that stigmatism, and because of our own selfish greed and lust, y'all will pay the American government, but you will not pay the government of Israel. You won't give to the Lord what's required. And once again, I thought we keep the law. Is tithes a law? Then what is it? So let's find out today. So the first thing that I actually want to do is I want to start just straight out the gate. I'm going to start in Maccabees, the 3rd chapter, just to give a little bit of a backdrop, right? And then we're going to go all the way back to the law, and we're going to work our way forwards. All right. So this is 2nd Maccabees chapter 3, verse 1. Now, when the holy city was inhabited with all peace, and the laws were kept very well because of the godliness of Onias the high priest, and his hatred of wickedness, it came to pass that even the kings themselves did honor the place and magnify the temple with their best gifts, insomuch that Seleucus, king of Asia, of his own revenues bear all the cost belonging to the service of sacrifice. Now, notice what we're talking about here is commerce. What we're talking about here is finances. We're talking about what type of gifts. Kings have riches, and they take their riches and put them inside of the sanctuary. They take them and put them to the temple. They bring them to the priest. But one Simon of the tribe of Benjamin, who was made governor of the temple, fell out with the high priest about disorder in the city. And when he could not overcome Onias, he gat him to Apollos, the son of Therses, who then was governor of Seleucia and Phoenice. So now herein lies the issue. You have men who do not have brotherhood, and they fight with their own people. And as a result, they turn on their own people. They had a fallout because he wants to be in charge. But a minute ago, it talks about how peaceful the city was because of what Onias had done. You understand? Because of his righteousness and keeping the law. And a part of that law was these gifts and tribute that was paid. So now, verse 6, and he told him that the treasury, who runs the treasury, who's in charge of the treasury, this is the treasury of the priest. Remember, it's the priest who's handling all this. That's why the story starts with, the chapter starts with Onias the high priest. And he told him that the treasury in Jerusalem was full of infinite sums of money. You understand? Not corn, not mint, not cumin. You understand? Not all these things, you understand, that y'all claim that tithes are. And the reason being that we think like this is because we don't understand industry. We don't understand industry, along with also not understanding industry. We don't know about, you understand, the climate of each era. Like we're so used to being consumers. We're so used to just being fed. We don't understand what it means to run a nation based off of agriculture, because currently right now, like we're post-industrial revolution. So we're post-industry. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, everything was ran off of agriculture and skilled labor. You know what I'm saying? And these things set up, social classes. This is why doctors have always been high esteemed. This is why, you have skilled laborers like blacksmith and so on and so forth. But above everything, like we think on such a small scale because we don't have a nation. You know what I'm saying? So when you think of tithes in your head, you think of a garden. You think that, oh, your little tomato garden, you got to go give the priest 2 tomatoes. Like we don't understand that. I say this all the time to try to paint a picture. The Bible is our constitution. So I wanna paint a broader picture here. When we always talk about the law, the law, the law that Moses established. But what we forget is that Moses was in the wilderness. So this is a people who are leaving a government, or leaving a nation that had a government over them. And they're now traveling and wandering in the wilderness, and there is no civilization here. That's why they're crying about, where are we getting the water? The Most High had to send quail. The Most High had to send, XYZ. So we're traveling through the wilderness. We don't have a civilization yet. Moses is building the government. He's building, you understand, how we're going to operate. And it's inside the wilderness that he now establishes trade and commerce. He now establishes how this is going to be governed, how we're going to travel moving forward, because initially one of the oldest systems of trade was the barter system. So the barter system is, I have, corn, you have cucumbers, and we trade, so we both have it. But that's how peasants deal. You understand? Now, we know that Israel wasn't a nation of peasants because there was aristocracy in Israel. That's why when we talk about even the scribes, the Sadducees, the Pharisees, we talk about how they were doctors and known people in the law, rich. You understand? This is why we have things like shekels and commerce, because that became the establishment for trade. You understand? And eventually it turned into, script. And before it was script, it was coin. And before coin, it was a shekel from a weight system. That, it wouldn't look like what you see today, like a stamped coin with a fixed amount on it. It would be the weight of something, and that would be considered a shekel, where it would just have a shape, and based on, you understand, the weight of these shekels would be what the amount or value was at that time. So when Moses is establishing this, remember, you understand, the law wasn't talking about gardens. The law was talking about vineyards. I asked this a couple of weeks ago. I don't know. Y'all could type this into the chat as well. But so, for example, if you had a grape vineyard, right? What's the average size of a vineyard today in acres? Let me just see if y'all could type them into the chat on Clubhouse, or if y'all could also type them into the chat on YouTube. Let me just see what you would guess. Don't Google it, just off your mind, off your head. What do you believe the average size of a vineyard, of a grape vineyard, is in California? I'm gonna give y'all a second to answer. Let me see what y'all got. My Imad said 30 acres. Okay. Rawath Coco says 12. Let me see if we can get some other answers. Somebody said 60. Let me see if we can get some more answers. Let me see, 5 acres or even 1 acre. Wait, hold up. Ben Judah Israel got it. 100 acres. You understand? That's the size of like an average vineyard. I'm gonna Google it right now, and y'all can Google this as well. So now, in comparison, looking at the other side of the Atlantic in California, where most of the grapes are grown, in 2012, an average size per vineyard farm was 82 acres. 82 to 100 acres is the average size of a vineyard. But we think so small. We don't understand industry. You understand? Like we don't comprehend that you grow something for profit. So when somebody has a grape vineyard, what does he do with those grapes? He sells them to a winery, or maybe he is a winery, or he sells those to the market. You don't grow food, you understand, just to eat. When you grow food in that magnitude, it's an industry. And before there was textile mills, before there was machinery, you understand, everything was done by hand. And what happens is that we would come and we would grow this amount of grapes, and we would have grape gatherers. Because remember, the law was not to glean the borders. When you don't glean the borders, that's the entire edge of 82 to 100 acres. So that, the strangers, the sojourners, the poor in Israel could come and eat some grapes. But you were allowed to partake in everything else. And when you took all of those grapes, that's millions of grapes. You sold them. When you sold them, that is your increase. And that's why when we read here about the treasury and told him, this is we're in 2 Maccabees chapter 3 and verse 6, and told him that the treasury in Jerusalem was full of infinite sums of money, so that the multitude of their riches, what did not pertain to the account of the sacrifices, was innumerable, and that it was possible to bring all into the king's hands, because these are things that were payments to the priest. Because there's another common misconception, which I'm going to get into, is that because of coming out of Christianity, there's a famous story of how Christ threw the money changers out of the temple. Having money changers was a part of our culture. The problem was that the problem wasn't the money changers. The problem was that Christ said the money changers were thieves. And we're going to get into exactly what and how they were stealing. They were stealing while they were exchanging this money. That's the problem, because they were thieves. So when we keep reading this story, so now, and that it was impossible to bring all into the king's hands. Now when Apollonius came to the king and had showed him of the money whereof he was told, once again, we're talking about money, finances, shekels. We're not talking about corn. We're not talking about string beans. And that's the crazy thing. Y'all that talk about vegetables and mint and cumin, y'all don't grow shit anyway to give it nowhere. That's the amazing part. So now, and he says the king chose out of Heliodorus his treasurer, and sent him with a commandment to bring him foresaid money. So forthwith Heliodorus took his journey under the color of visiting the cities of Celesyria and Phenice, but indeed to fulfill the king's purpose. And when he was come to Jerusalem and had been courteously received of the high priest of the city, he told him what intelligence was given of the money, and declared wherefore he came, and asked if these things were so indeed. Then the high priest told him that there was such money, and it was laid up for the relief of widows and fatherless children. And some of it belonged to Hernias, son of Tobias, great man of dignity, and not as that wicked Simon has misinformed. The sum whereof was 400 talents of silver and 200 talents of gold. So now we see here that the priest dealt with silver and gold, and they had treasuries filled with money. And they used this money not only for themselves, but for relief for the widows and the fatherless, because the priest actually took care of the people, unlike your Christian pastor. You understand? Your Christian pastor turns around and he will take tithes from your grandmother for 50, 60, 70 years. You understand? And then when she, because the church grows, uh, uh, um, the church goes through regime changes. She's been paying and paying and paying and paying. And then when she gets sick, needs some help with the hospital bills, he does nothing. You understand? So when you start reading about this, well, where did this money come from? This money comes from tithes because there's something called the shekel of the sanctuary. And this has always been. But we don't know these things, you understand? We don't understand what commerce is because they treat us like lowborns in America. Like we graduate school and we have no idea about economics. We graduate school and by the time you find out about what a credit score is, you already jacked yours up. But by the time you find out about 700 and 800 credit scores, yours is 300. You're already in debt. They don't teach us about economics and commerce when the Bible is literally the book that wrote it for the world. Because who runs the banking system? You understand? Like who established this banking system and everything in it? The Jewish man. Well, where did he get his knowledge of how to run these things? Got it from the Bible. Got it from the scriptures. Because Moses, when he was in that wilderness, established a system of how to build a civilized civilization. That's what he did. He didn't keep us as peasants and we just trade corn and we just trade mint and different spices. No, he turned all of this into industry, and we're going to get into it. All right. I want to get a couple of things before we get into absolutely everything. There's something else that I want to be like a repeated theme, and y'all can finish reading that story and you can find how the Lord sent angels and you understand and whoop these cats' tail. But a couple of things that I want to get into is go to Matthew's, and I'm going to go to 6:21, where it says, "For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also." Y'all got no problem spending money on weed. Y'all got no problem spending money on the fantasy football leagues and video games and whatever it is that you love. But when it comes down to building your nation, we're supposed to have a government. You think the Lord leaves us blind out here without priests and prophets? And this is a question that you need to know. Where is our government? Where are we supposed to be gathering? Where are our priests and prophets? Because if the law endureth forever, so does the priesthood. And if you're waking up to the identity that you're an Israelite, it's clear that it would be from the mouth of the prophets or from the priest that would be building and establishing this structure and these governments. So let's grab, first let's go to the numbers, go to 18. And I'm going to start at, I want to say, start at 21. So this is Numbers 18 and 21. "And behold, I have given the children of Levi all the 10th in Israel for an inheritance." So Israel did not have land for inheritance. The inheritance of Levi came from the sacrifices, the tithes, you understand, of the Most High. This that was given to them for their service, which they serve, even the service of the tabernacles of the congregation. So this is important because this was the priesthood of Israel. And now we're talking about their inheritance, their functions as a priest, what they get that the Lord declares. "Neither must the children of Israel henceforth come nigh the tabernacle of the congregation, lest they bear sin and die. But the Levites shall do the service of the tabernacle of the congregation, and they shall bear their iniquity. It shall be a statute forever through your generations, that among the children of Israel they have no inheritance." Inheritance is land. So that's why if you go look up a map of ancient Israel, and it's going to say Judah, Naphtali, Asher, Gad, Reuben, and these are going to be inheritances that are carved and marked out. You know, and we kind of draw these bounds and lines today. That's why I don't know if I've lived in Miami. You go to Miami, you have Little Havana, and there's a large population of one of the sons of Joseph, the Cubans. You understand? So when you go there, you have their tribe in abundance. Then if you go and you check out Little Haiti, you have the Levites living together. You have Spanish Harlem. And there you're going to find an abundance of Dominicans and Puerto Ricans living together because we stick with our tribes, because that goes all the way back to how we had inheritances. But Levi did not. Levi was this payment of tithes of a 10% of your increase or earnings. They didn't have land. And the Most High spake unto Moses, saying, thus speak unto the Levites, say unto them, when ye take the children of Israel tithes, which I have given you from them for your inheritance, then ye shall give up an heave offering of it for the Lord, even a 10th part of the tithe. So it's talking about the sacrifices that even the Levites make. And this is your heave offering, and shall be reckoned unto you as though it were corn of the threshing floor, and as though the fullness of the winepress. Well, what's the fullness of the winepress? Remember, we're not talking about your garden. The fullness of the winepress is the 10% you earned from making wine from those grapes, because that's your industry. Thus ye also shall thus ye also shall offer an heave offering unto the Most High of all your tithes, which ye receive of the children of Israel, and ye shall give thereof the Lord's heave offering to Aaron the priest. You understand? This means that even the priest paid to the high priest a heave offering, and that was his salary. That's what he got paid. So now, where did all this come from? You understand? Where did all this start? So now I'm going to start in Deuteronomy, where this was really established and invented, and then show where the system and the coin, you understand, was refined. Because remember, Moses was establishing moral order. So now the first thing that I want to do is let's go to Deuteronomy. Go to Deuteronomy, the 14th chapter. And we're going to start at, I want to say maybe 22. All right. So now this is Deuteronomy 14 and 22. Thou shalt truly tithe all the increase of thy seed that thou field bringeth forth year by year. So we're in the wilderness. We don't have fields yet. We're not staying in one spot. Moses is telling you what to do. You understand? This is what we do as time goes on. He's telling you how we're going to establish ourselves, that this is what we do now, and this is what we do when we're stationary. This is what we're going to do when we build our kingdom. And that, Slakia, and thou shalt eat before the Lord thy God in thy place which he chooseth to place his name there, the tithe of thy corn, of thy wine, meaning what? The 10% you make from your profits, of thy wine and of thine oil, and the firstlings of thy herds and of thy flocks, that thou mayest learn to fear the Most High thy God always. And if the way be too long for thee, so that thou art not able to carry it, why does the length of the journey matter? Because how long do you think fruits and vegetables last? You know, I seen a meme the other day where somebody was talking about they can't wait to buy vegetables to bring them home to die in the back of the fridge. You know, like because of GMOs and how they manipulate fruit and vegetables, they last longer now, and with refrigeration. But if this is thousands of years ago, and I mean they have like geothermal cooling systems and things of that nature, right? But if this is thousands of years ago, how long do you think these fruits and vegetables were lasting for? You understand? Like how long do your bananas last? So if the journey's far and you have to go and exchange this in a specific place, by the time you get there to exchange this or to sell it, you know what's going to happen? It's going to go bad. The priests aren't going to be able to use it. So that's why the length of the journey mattered. Or if this place be too far from thee, which the Most High thy power shall choose to set his name there, when the Most High thy power hath blessed thee, then thou shalt turn it into money and bind up thy money in thy hand. Now, why is this so important? Because nations and different areas have different forms of currency. You can look this up. America at one time had different money and different values of money inside each state before it got regulated. Europe at one time, you used to have, the rubles. You used to have all the different types of currency until they unified under one coin or one version called the euro. And now that regulated the exchange rate. Well, it was the same in ancient civilizations. You had different forms of currency where money had to be exchanged. So the money that you make outside of Jerusalem might not be the same as the value of the coin inside of Jerusalem. And this is where money changers come from. And the changers also come from the value of what you're bringing to be exchanged in this commerce. It's the value of the product. This is where appraisals come from. Like we're going to get into, this is where Carfax comes from. This is where somebody estimates the value of your vehicle, of your house. And that was the priest job. And we're going to get into that with our next precept. So, but let's continue reading here, that they turned it into money because they could not travel with these goods. Moses is ending the barter system. Moses is now showing us how to establish an economy. And we were one of the first people who invented this economy. We invented usury and charging interest. We invented the banking systems and all these different civilized societies. Now, that's not to say that there weren't other forms of commerce or shekels in other areas. I'm talking about what we did to refine the system, what we did to perfect it, and what we did to help each other and make sure that we benefited from the heathens. That's why you don't charge your brother usury or interest. So if I lend Captain Nazariak $500 or Captain Nazariak lends me $500, I don't take $550 or he doesn't take $550. It's just $500. But a heathen, you can lend him money and he'll pay it back to you with interest. And that's how they've enslaved us today. They've enslaved us in a system of debt. You can't charge your brother usury because then you put him in a system of debt. And if you keep raising it, he will forever keep working for you. So now, and it says that the Lord thy God should choose, and thou shalt bestow that money for whatsoever thy soul lusteth after. Because now they can do whatever they want with the money. 4 oxen. Now, if they want to go buy an ox, they can. Because what do you think people sell oxen for? They sell it for money. That's why they raise them. Or for sheep or wine. Why do you think people start wineries? To make money. Kanazar got an oil business. How's he going to make money if he just give all y'all the oil? You pay it. It's commerce. You understand? Y'all want to buy black until it's for a priest. Or for strong drink, or whatsoever thy soul desireth. And thou shalt eat thereof before the Lord thy God, and thou shalt rejoice, thou and thine household. Why? Because this was how the priest got paid. This was the salary for them. So now let me show you. Now we're going to go to Leviticus 27th chapter. Now, let me show you what the priest job was and show you how all of this had to do with commerce. All right. Before I move on, let me just double check the chat over here. Okay, no sweat. I'm gonna get to your question, Dakaya, in a second. All right. Just stay with me for a minute. So now we're going to go to Leviticus, the first chapter. And the Most High spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel and say unto them, when a man make a singular vow, the person shall be for the Most High by thy estimation, because there was always payments to the priest. You know, just like if you're in a union, you pay union dues. You understand? Some of y'all might be in a nurses union. I know some hotels with the the sisters that do the maintenance or cleaning, they have unions. You pay union dues because there's a service that's being provided for this. An estimation is the amount that this is worth. And the estimation shall be of the male from 20 years old, even unto 60 years old. Even thy estimation shall be 50 shekels of silver after the shekel of the sanctuary. Now, why does it say after the shekel of the sanctuary? Because remember what I told you earlier. Shekels is a weight, is an increment. Now, you being in a different land might have a different weight of that shekel to be able to find out what the value is. But the value and the standard goes according to the weight of the sanctuary. And that's why if you look in a lot of ancient societies, you see scales. Scales are called balances. And the balances gives you the measure and the weight. So they'll have a specific weight of something and they'll put it on one side of the balance and say, you have to give 3 shekels. You put your shekels up. And now maybe your shekels aren't the weight of the sanctuary. So maybe you're paying 4 until it reaches the actual weight on the scale. And it balances out according to what the weight of that payment is in the sanctuary. And now you can't say this shekel is anything else but commerce because it says of silver. And who's performing this? The priest, because the priest get paid for their services. This is why when we read inside of Maccabees, what we read was they had a treasury full of silver and gold. This is why you have money changers who change these things over to pay the priest. So let's continue reading. And thy estimation shall be of the male from 20 years old, even unto 60 years old. Even thy estimation shall be 50 shekels of silver, and the shekel after the shekel of the sanctuary. And if it be a female, then thy estimation shall be 30 shekels. So there was a price for men and a price for women. And all of this went according to the weight of what was in the sanctuary, according to what the priest declared was the number. And hold on, let me see. So now let me see if I can. Let me drop down to verse 8. But if he be poorer than thy estimation, because there was also judgment where the priest would look at you and say, pay this. And now you would turn around and say, well, this is what I can afford. This is why, like, remember, the priest handled the government. You understand? The priest handled, judgment. When you go to court, right? I mean, listen, God forbid y'all do, but like before you go to court, when you're in a holding cell, you have somebody who comes by before you go see the judge. And they ask you, what's your profession? How much do you make? What do you do? Where do you live? And they ask you these questions because the judge goes and looks at who you are. And when he goes to give you a judgment, he's supposed to give you a judgment according to your means, according to how you live. This comes from the Bible. And this is why it says, but if he be poorer than thy estimation, then he shall present himself before the priest, and the priest shall value him according to his ability. That vowed shall the priest value him at, because the priests are judging him. So now they're talking to him and they're trying to find out about his living so that they don't place a burden on him that's more than he can afford. Verse 10. No, excuse me. I'm sorry. Verse 9. And it shall be a beast whereof men bring an offering unto the Lord. Remember, the priest get the offerings. They get the tithes. They get all of this. And when you bring the beast, right, It says, all that any man giveth of such unto the Lord shall be holy. He shall not alter it or change it. If a good or a bad for a good. And if he shall at all change beast for beast, then and the exchange thereof shall be holy. So now it's talking about the things that they trade for, the value of things. Let's keep reading. And if that shall be any unclean beast, of which they do offer sacrifice unto the Lord, then he shall present the beast before the priest, and the priest shall value it. Why are they valuing it? It's an appraisal. Everything that we're talking about right now has to do with the commerce according to the shekel of the sanctuary. Who art the priest, so shall it be. But if he at all will redeem it, he shall add a fifth part thereof unto thy estimation. A fifth part of what? A fifth part of what you're paying according to the shekel of the sanctuary. Because this is like, I just learned this, you understand, from General Muhammad. If y'all ever heard, you don't look a gift horse in the mouth. The reason as to why, like when you go back and you hear a lot of these expressions, they have to do with agriculture is because that's what society was before industry. That's what I brought up in the beginning of class, where I talked about the different systems that were there when it comes down to commerce before the present system that we know today. So a gift horse, meaning you can tell how old a horse is by the gum line. You understand? By if the gums are receding and how long the teeth are. So if somebody's gifting you a horse, you don't look him in the mouth to see how much he's worth. You accept the gift and you thank them for it. And based on what the animal is, because remember, it's saying an unclean beast. Horses are unclean. So it's talking about now they're bringing an unclean animal onto the priest as an offering. So the priests are going to look at the horse and they're going to value it. And they value it because they're not salesmen. They're supposed to use righteous judgment. And in righteously judging this, they look at the horse and say, this is how much it is. And then if the man agrees, meaning the man goes to redeem it here is talking about commerce, money. Then he adds a fifth part onto it. You understand? So if it's $400, what's 5% of 420? The value is 420. And now this is what they pay. Because this is the estimation. This is why when you go and you look at what your car is, when you want to sell it, you have an estimator. Someone inspects the car and gives you the value of it. Now today, you got Kelly Blue Book. Kelly Blue Book is your estimator. You know what I'm saying? Your Carfax. You understand? Like you don't have a horse. Horses are for travel. They're trying to come and bring this horse here or the value of it to sell. And now they're valuing what it's worth. Let's keep reading. And when a man shall sanctify his house, how is he sanctifying his house? This man is selling property. Now I'm going to read this here, but we're going to come back because what I want to do is I want to get in Acts when the people sold their houses and then came and laid that money at Peter's feet. Why did they do that? Because Peter was the priest. When a man shall sanctify his house, this house is getting appraised. His house to be holy unto the Most High, then the priest shall estimate it. The priest comes and looks at the value of how much this property is worth, whether it be good or bad. As the priest shall estimate it, so shall it stand. So whatever he says this house is worth, that's the value of it. And if he that sanctifieth will redeem his house, meaning now he sells it, then he shall add the fifth part of the money of his estimation onto it, and it shall be his. And if a man shall sanctify unto the Lord some part of a field of his possession, remember, this is all appraising. Sanctifying it, meaning you're giving it to the priest. How do you give it to the priest? Then thy estimation shall be according to the seed thereof. And homer of barley seed shall be valued at 50 shekels of silver. And who decides what the shekel is? The shekel of the sanctuary. That is the unit, increment, and measure of what you have to pay to the priest. But y'all think it's corn. Y'all think all this has to do with wheat and barley when it's talking about selling the wheat and the barley. And when you sell hey, I got my field ready. Okay, I'm ready to pay. Come and tell me how much all this is worth. He comes, he appraises it. You now go and sell that field. And you give him what he appraised. That's commerce. That's how it works. That's what this whole chapter is about. That's what everything in here is about. You understand? And it even has rules and it even has laws when it comes down to the things that we would do in the year of Jubilee. If he sanctified his field from the year of Jubilee, according to the estimation, it shall stand. But if he sanctify his field after the Jubilee, then the priest shall reckon unto him the money according to the years that remain, because that was a time of forgiveness for debt and commerce, even unto the year of Jubilee, and it shall be abated from thy estimation. And if he that sanctified the field will in any wise redeem it, then he shall add the fifth part of the money to thy estimation unto it, and it shall be reassured to him. All of these things was what the priest did. So now let's keep reading. If I drop down to verse 25, because a lot of this is going to get repetitive, but it's going to talk about the field. It's going to talk about the houses. It's going to talk about the animals, if they're clean, if they're unclean, that the priest value what they're worth. Only the firstling of beast, which should be the Lord's firstlings, no man shall sanctify it, whether it be ox or sheep. It is the Lord's, and those are the burnt offerings. And if it shall be of an unclean beast, then he shall redeem it according to thine estimation. Whose estimation? The estimation of the priest. And shall add a fifth part it thereto. Or if it not be redeemed, or if it be not redeemed, then it shall be sold according to thy estimation. Because all of this is talking about money. All of this is talking about commerce and how the priests are to deal with the commerce. So now let's keep reading. And all the tithe of the land, whether of the seed of the land or the fruit of the tree, is the Lord's, and it is holy unto the Lord. And if a man will at all redeem aught of his tithes, he shall add thereto the fifth part thereof. This has been continuously repeating. The offerings and the tithes get turned into money and given to the priest at the value that they set. This is where money changers come from. This is where they come from. So what was so wrong with the money changers? So what happens is that, remember what we were talking about earlier, right? About how a shekel is a unit of measurement. And it goes according to the shekel of the sanctuary. And remember what we're reading about here, that we're reading about if it be good or bad, right? It talks about what goes on with the estimation. So, for example, it says, I'm going to drop back down and go when it talks about it. It says, he shall not alter it or change it, meaning what? You can't alter or change the estimation of what it's really worth in value. And if you do, you're robbing the people. And what the money changers during Christ's time were doing is they were not giving the proper estimation, and they were robbing the people instead of giving them a fair deal and a fair trade. They weren't being righteous priests. They weren't doing what was proper. They were doing what your pastor does today. You understand? Where they were hustling you instead of being fair with you according to the law, according to the exchange rate. So when Christ went in there, you understand, he said, you turned my house, the Lord's house, into a den of thieves, my father's house into a den of thieves. It's because they turned around and were not giving the fair exchange rate. They were robbing the people. That's the issue. So now the question might arise, well, here we see the law, and this is for the Levites. This is what the Levites done. What does this have to do with the priesthood today? And once again, if y'all are typing in your questions, I've seen a couple of them. I'm going to, you know what I'm saying, check, you know what I'm saying, some of them in a minute. Yeah, absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Economics right in our face. This brother said, we're in captivity right now. We don't have land. No, but you do have a job. You do have an increase or an earning. You understand? Like, you do make money, because here's the thing. You think everybody was a farmer? What do you think? What do you think a lawyer got paid in? Think the lawyer got paid in corn when there's silver and gold out here? No, there was a unit and increment for how much things are worth. We're just talking about what the priest charged for their services. You think business just stopped here? Don't work like that. So now, what I want to do is, now we're going to fast forward to how, because people turn around, well, that's the Old Testament. That's the Old Testament. What do you know about the Old Testament? Okay, no sweat. Well, let's go to the New Testament. So let's go to Hebrews, the 7th chapter. And now let's talk about it. So this is, for this Melchizedek, that's Malachi Tazadak in the Hebrew, the king of righteousness. Melchizedek goes back to Genesis, the 14th chapter, which we're going to read in a few. It says, for this Melchizedek, king of Salem, meaning king of peace. So these are all titles. Priest of the Most High God, who met Abraham returning from the slaughter of kings and blessed him, to whom also Abraham gave a 10th part of all. This isn't talking about just vegetables. For those of you who might not know, Abraham and Lot had servants who fought with each other. And because of a lack of brotherhood, because lack of brotherhood causes schisms. Lack of brotherhood is why people separate. So what happens is that because those servants didn't have brotherhood, Lot was like, I'm going to separate. And Abraham was like, that's fine. But he was like, yo, look to the left, look to the right. All of this is ours. Abraham knew brotherhood. Lot was still wrestling. So he's like, listen, man, you could take the east. I'll take the west. I'll take the west. You take the east. And we'll go our separate ways. And in that turn, that's how Lot ended up by Sodom and Gomorrah. And then those kings came and tried to take him captive. So Abraham went to war, took his servants, went to war. He won. And all those spoils that he had, he paid a 10th of everything he got, all of his increase. And he paid the 10th of the spoils onto this priest. So now let's keep reading. So he says, without father, without mother, without descent, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but made like unto the Son of God, abideth a priest continually. Remember, we're talking about Abraham right now. There are no Levites. Levi's not here, but Abraham paid tithes before the Levites even existed. This means the law has always been. It's always been law. Now consider how great this man was, unto whom even the patriarch Abraham gave the 10th of the spoil. So the first thing I asked to somebody who got a problem with tithes, are you better than Abraham, the patriarch? No, I didn't think so. And verily, they that are the sons of Levi who receive the office of priesthood have a commandment to take tithes of the people according to the law. That's what we read. We were reading the laws. That is of their brethren, though they come out of the loins of Abraham. So they come after Abraham. But before they even existed, Abraham tithed. But he whose descent is not counted from them received tithes of Abraham, and blessed him that had the promises. Abraham had the promises. He was blessed. and he paid tithes. And why is it saying of no descent? Because you had to be born a Levite to receive the tithes. This man was not born a Levite, so who is he? And here, men that die receive tithes, but there he receiveth them, of whom is witness that he liveth. And as I may say, Levi also, who receiveth tithes, paid tithes in Abraham. Meaning what? These men weren't even alive yet. They were in Abraham's loins paying tithes, meaning that even the Levites had to pay. For he was yet in the loins of his father when Melchizedek met him. If therefore perfection were by the Levitical priesthood, for under if the people received the law, what further need was there another priesthood should arise after the order of Melchizedek, and not be called after the order of Aaron? Meaning what? There's a changing of the guard. There's going to be a changing of the guard where we're not under the Levitical priesthood. We're under the order of Melchizedek. For the priesthood being changed, meaning that we used to be under the Levites, we're now under Melchizedek. The Levites were the one who were the law. The Levites were the one who they turned around and they gave the judgment and the appraisals and told you how much this was worth. They set the shekel of the sanctuary. That's the law. They're the keepers of the law. So what happens now? There's going to be a changing of the law. So the law isn't with Levi anymore. The law is with Melchizedek. The law is going to be managed, maintained, and operated under this order. So the same way Abraham paid tithes, now everybody pays tithes to the order of Melchizedek. For the priesthood being changed, there is made of necessity a change also of the law. So you're changing what was given to the Levites, and now you give it to Melchizedek. For he of whom these things are spoken pertaineth to another tribe, of which no man gave attendance at the altar. Meaning it wasn't Judites who was handling the altar. For it is evident that our Lord sprang out of Judah. Well, Christ is high priest, is he not? How, if he's not a Levite? Of which tribe Moses spake nothing concerning priesthood. Judites aren't supposed to be priests. That's not what Moses said. And it is yet far more evident that after the similitude of Melchizedek, there ariseth another priest. The similitude meaning what? In the same manner, in the same form. So Christ is after the order of Melchizedek. And the law is changing from being ran and operated from the Levites to Melchizedek, who is made not after the law of carnal commandment, but after the power of endless life. For he testified, thou art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. That was Psalms 110. That's where that came from. The New Testament is telling you, you pay tithes onto them. This is who you pay tithes onto. Because remember, and this is what I mean, where your heart is, so shall thy treasure be, or where your treasure is, so shall thy heart be. You understand? Where you put your money, that's where your heart's really at. You put your money in buying weed, that's where your heart's at. You support the drug dealer. You put your money in fantasy football leagues, that's where you start with the New England Patriots. That's where your heart's at. Y'all will gamble your life away. You understand? Y'all have spent money on nothing. But here's the thing. The same way the priest sanctified those fields, the same way the priest sanctified that house, the Lord sanctified your check. 10% was appraised and estimated according to the law. So if you have $100, you give 10 to the priest. You understand? They sanctified your check. Y'all want to talk about we keep the law? No, you don't. You don't pay tithes. How do you keep the law? And if you offend in one, you offend in all. But the problem is, once again, Y'all don't understand what a government is. You understand what a government is by force. You understand what the American government is and will do. But y'all don't really fear the Lord or reverence his priests and prophets. Y'all don't look at what they do and deem it worthy. And you know what? There was a time when they didn't for the Levites as well. Because remember, we're under the order of Melchizedek. And history continues to repeat itself. You understand? But there are priests today that are after the order of Melchizedek, to whom pertaineth no tribe. That's why when you go and you look at the promise was what? We would be a nation of priests, a nation of kings. And that's why every tribe is open to the priesthood now, not just the Levites. So when we go, just to show you how history repeats itself, we're going to go to Nehemiah 13, and I'm going to start at verse 10, wherein it says, and I perceive that the portions of the Levites had not been given them. What were those portions? Those portions were what we read in Leviticus 27, the offerings, the properties, the money, the shekels that we were speaking of or earlier, the tithes. That's their portion because they're the priest. Had not been given them, for the Levites and the singers that did the work were fled every one to his field. See, that's what y'all want to do. Y'all want to turn, y'all don't want to give money because you want to go and you want to give the priest cattle. Well, if the priest only have cattle and no money, they're farmers now in their field and they can't work for you. Or they have to go to work in the field and neglect the work because you're not giving them their salary. You know, we be in the street teaching and somebody always come up and say, get a job. They never said that to Creflo. You think they ever said that to the Pope? How do you think the Pope gets paid? How do you think Father Patrick, you understand, over at the Catholic Church around the corner, how do you think he gets paid? You think he don't have a salary? What you thought this was? They turn around now and they say, get a job. This is supposed to be your job. But when you don't turn around and pay the Levites, they go to the field. Then I contended with the rulers and said, why is the house of God forsaken? Now, remember, we read about the house of God earlier in Maccabees, and it talked about their storehouses. It talked about their treasures. And I gathered them together and set them in their place. Then brought all Judah the tithe of corn and of the new wine and the oil onto the treasuries, because you pay the corn, it's appraised, and you pay the value of it, the 10%, onto the people when you make the exchange. That's where money changers come from. That's where the exchange rate comes from, according to the shekel of the sanctuary. And I made treasurers over the treasuries. And now he starts talking about how he organizes this. And he organizes it that they were counted faithful and their office was to distribute onto their brethren, meaning this is how the other priests got paid and got their salary. So now let's take a look at how the priesthood of Melchizedek operated during Christ's time. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to that story that I talked about earlier. So we're going to go to Acts, 4th chapter, and I'm going to start, let's see. Let's start with verse 31. This is Acts 4 and 31. And when they had prayed, the place was shaken where they were assembled together. And they were all filled with the Holy Spirit, and they spake the word of God with boldness. So now this is the congregation. This is them all together. And the multitude of them that believed were of one heart and of one soul. Neither said any of them that aught of the thing which he possessed was his own, but they had all things common. See, this is how we operate in here. You understand? We went to camp yesterday, right? And we were moving things from one storage unit to another. And then while we were doing that, Officer Kwara Ya'ala said, "Hey, can I use the Sabbath service gear? And then I can have a brother teach the Sabbath service on Saturday on both Boston and Connecticut." And I said, "Absolutely." Because the Torah scroll isn't mine. All the Sabbath service gear isn't mine. We have all things in common as we labor together with one consent to build this nation. This is why this class is also on Connecticut and Boston, because we work together and labor in one body to build a house unto the Lord. We have all things in common. You understand? Captain Zaryak believes in that wholeheartedly. I still ain't got some of these books back I left at his house because they his books too.
Pretty much.
But I do need to teach some lessons, so they gonna have to come back this way. So, but we have all things in common. We share everything. You understand? And with great power gave the apostles witness of the resurrection of the Lord Yahushua, and great grace was upon them. Neither was there any among them that lacked. For as many as were possessors of lands or houses sold them and brought the prices of things that were sold. This sounds extremely familiar. Well, where was that from? So hold where you're at, right? Now y'all gonna learn a very valuable lesson. So hold where you're at, and now we're going to go back to Leviticus, the 27th chapter, and remember what the job of the priest was. So let's go to Leviticus 27 and 14. And when a man shall sanctify his house. Well, what just happened in Acts, the 4th chapter? Neither was there any among them that lacked, for as many were possessors of lands or house, sold them. They sanctified their house in the New Testament before the priest under the order of Melchizedek, and brought the prices of the things that were sold and laid them down at the apostles' feet, because the apostles are the priest. And distribution was made unto every man according as he had need, because there's a changing of the law. There's a changing of the law and the priesthood. The changing is the priesthood over from Levi to Melchizedek. So Levi doesn't handle the laws, the order of Melchizedek does. And so now in the law that's being exchanged over, it said, Leviticus 27 and 14, and when a man shall sanctify his house to be holy unto the Lord, then the priest shall estimate it, whether it be good or bad. And the priest shall estimate it, so it shall stand. And if he that sanctified it will redeem his house, so he's selling the house, then he shall add the 5th part of the money of estimation onto it, and it shall be his. And if a man shall sanctify unto the Lord some part of field of his possession, then the estimation shall be according to the seed thereof, and the homer of barley seed shall be valued at 50 shekels of silver. So let's go back to Acts and show you they did the same thing in Acts. Acts, verse 4 and 34. Neither was there any of them that lacked, for as many of them were possessors of lands, there's the field, or house, there's the house, sold them and brought the price of the things that were sold. According to what? According to the value, according to this appraisal, and laid them down at the apostles' feet, and distribution was made every man according as he had need. And that's what we just read that the Levites did. That's what we just read that they did in Maccabees, that they said, yeah, we got storehouses and treasures, and they took care of the fatherless and the widows, and they got paid. And Joseph, by whom the apostle surnamed Barnabas, which is being interpreted the son of consolation, a Levite, and the country of Cyprus, having land. This is a Levite having land, sold it, and brought the money and laid it at the apostles' feet. Because the priesthood is open to all the tribes under the order of Melchizedek, and these men were the new government. So now, what else transpired? Well, we're in Acts 4. Let's go to Acts 5. So now, but a certain man named Ananias with Sapphira, his wife, sold a possession and kept back part of the price. Well, who declares the price? Leviticus said that when a man sanctify his house to be holy unto the Lord, the priest shall estimate it, whether it be good or bad. And if he that sanctify it redeem his house, meaning they sell their house, he shall add the fifth part of the money of thy estimation onto it, and it shall be his. So when we go over here, we see that they sold a certain possession and kept back part of the price. His wife also being privy to it and brought a certain part and laid it at the apostles' feet. They didn't want to give the priest what they would do. They didn't want to do that. Whilst it remained, was it not thy own? Meaning when it was yours, you could have done whatever you wanted to it. But this is sanctified by the Lord. This belongs to the Lord now. And after it was sold, was it not in thine own power? Meaning you had the power during this time period. Why hast thou conceived this thing in thine heart, that thou hast lied on that thou hast not lied unto men, but unto God? Is Peter God? No. Why is it saying they lied unto God, unto the Most High? Because if you lie onto a priest, you lie to the Lord. You're not lying onto man, and that's your problem. Y'all put this, we don't serve men, when men are representations of God, the right men. Y'all better find out who the right men are. Y'all better find out where the priests are. Because if you're claiming you're an Israelite, you have a priesthood. What are you doing to give the priests their dues? What are you doing to keep the law? Oh, you think it's okay to break the law. I understand. Lord be with you. So now let's keep reading. So it says, thou hast not lied unto men, but unto God. And Ananias, hearing these words, fell down and gave up the spirit. And great fear came on all of them that heard these things, meaning that man dropped dead because he owed the Lord and lied and wanted to keep it to himself. And the young men arose, wound him up, and carried him out and buried him. And it was about the spaces of 3 hours after, when his wife, not knowing what was done, came in, and Peter answered unto her, tell me whither ye sold the land for so much. And she said, yea, for so much, meaning this is the amount. This is the appraisal. This was the estimation. Then Peter said unto her, how is it that ye have agreed together to tempt the Spirit of the Lord? Behold, the feet of them which have buried thy husband are at the door, and shall carry thee out. Then fell she down straightway at his feet, and yielded up the spirit. And the young men came in and found her dead, and carried her forth, buried her by her husband. See, that's what y'all don't even know we have a priesthood. Y'all think that being an Israelite is a game, and you want democracy, and you want to be an individual, and you want to make God whatever you believe it is to make God, because your heart is with yourself. That's why your money stays with yourself. And I know it's a rough topic. I know because the Christian church robbed you. You understand? Now you gotta just, you understand, be a selfish bastard. I understand. I understand, but you're supposed to be a new person. You're supposed to have a second chance. And you know what that means? You're supposed to actually be in the body of Christ. And the body of Christ is ran by priests. And those priests are the order of Melchizedek. And the law and priesthood was changed and handed over to them. You don't have a priest? How are you in the body? Oh, you don't have a prophet you go to. Oh, okay. You're in the truth. All right. Yeah. I'll be with you. Let's keep going. Let's go to 1 Timothy 5. And then after that, I'm going to start taking the questions. I'm going to go back to the chat. We're in 1 Timothy 5, and I'm going to drop down to verse 17. Let the elders that rule be counted worthy of double honor, especially they who labor in the word and doctrine. Y'all love this. Double honors onto the elders because y'all honor with your lips. Y'all aren't really about the service. Y'all are just, oh, it's so nice what you do. Thank you. We appreciate it. That's what y'all do. For the scripture saith, thou shalt not muzzle the ox that treadeth out the corn. The laborer is worthy of the reward. Who's the laborers? The priests and prophets. What's their reward? 10%. Because that's law. Do you keep the law? I'm a priest and I pay 10%. We read about a heave offering earlier. Because 10% goes to the priest in charge. Oh, you don't have a priest. Okay, no sweat. I understand. I get it. All right, I got a couple of other precepts. Let me go back now. Let me start reading through some of these comments, all right? Let me see. Let me start with, what do you call it? It says, sound like commercial law to me. We're not talking about commercial law. What we talking about is the law of the Most High. That's what we're doing. Okay, let me see. All right, here we go. And once again, if y'all got questions, if you got comments, you can raise your hand. You can come up on Clubhouse. Let me see. Brother said, Salaki, sir, in Nehemiah 10 and 30, is Nehemiah 10 and 32 tithes, or was this an additional tax for the upkeep of the school? Let me get there with you, all right? So this is Nehemiah 10. And you say, hold on, 32. Also were made ordinances for us to charge ourselves yearly with the third part of a shekel for the services of the house of God. So once again, like when this is something additional. This is like when we read in the beginning of Leviticus 27 and 11, 27 and 1, and the Most High spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel and say unto them, when a man shall make a singular vow, the person shall be for the Lord at thy estimation. And thy estimation shall be of the male from 20 years old, even unto 60 years old. And the estimation shall be 50 shekels of silver after the shekel of the sanctuary. So what you're reading about is the shekel of the sanctuary that they determined according to that vow, according to what they declared per each person that was working. So that's what they declared. That was their estimation at this time for their ordinance of what they are to charge themselves inside this work for the house of God. All right. Brother also asked 2 Kings 12 and 9. Let me get there. Second Kings 12 and 9. But Jedediah the priest took a chest and bored a hole in the lid thereof, and set it besides the altar on the right side, as one cometh into the house of the Lord. And the priest that kept the door put all therein money that was brought into the house of the Lord. The money that was brought into the house of the Lord, you understand, if you keep reading, it's going to give you the context. You understand of what it was. You understand, as far as if it's donations, if it's tithes, if it's any of the appraisals or offerings that we spoke about earlier. Because like I said, Leviticus 27 gives you all the offerings of how the priest estimate them. So it's a multitude of finances. All right. Let me see. Economics is in the scriptures. They're right in our face. Absolutely. Let me see what else you got. Michael Lowry, we're in captivity. We don't have land. I understand, but you have a job. He said, open the lines. If you want to, if you got a question or a comment, then you can go ahead. We're on Clubhouse. You understand? There's no phone lines. This is an actual class. All right. Let me see. Okay, Mike, I see exactly where your heart is. You understand? You just with yourself. That's all that it comes down to. Let me see. You wouldn't know righteousness because you don't keep the law, Mike. That's the problem. Let me see. Brother who said he got a serious question, just type your question in. All right. Judah Nazariah says, oh, so Isupk is going to pay the Torah nights, the tithes. Levite teaches Torah. You don't know. That's what you don't understand. The Levites pay tithes to the order of Melchizedek. All 12 tribes pay order to the priesthood under Melchizedek. We just spoke about that. Let me see. Shalom, I don't want checking in. Quick question. Is it known from what tribe the apostles was? Sometimes it says it, sometimes it don't, but we know that they were all Israelites. All right. Let me see what else we got. Yeah, that was rough, man. He killed the husband and the wife because they lied. It's crazy, ain't it? Let me see. All right, I think that's all the questions there. Let me swing back this way. Yikes, God wasn't playing. Absolutely. Property. Okay, yeah. Property tax, tithes, money, labor. Okay, yeah. All of that, absolutely. Because once again, the Bible was building a nation. I'm going to repeat exactly what I had stated earlier. When you go and you look at what Moses laid down inside that wilderness, he laid down an entire system of how, you can literally take the Bible, right? And we can go into a wilderness and we can use the Bible to create a nation, a government. Everything inside of what happened post Exodus was literally to build a kingdom. You understand, from commerce, economics, how to treat the poor, what to do with taxes, what the rulers are supposed to do, because this is our constitution. And the reason why a lot of people don't grasp this is for the same reason. It's why it has to be studied to such a degree, because Christianity makes you think that everybody picks up the Bible and is supposed to be a master of the scriptures. When, all right, let's look at today's society and then let's compare it to the Bible real quick. If we look at today, how many of you understand the law? How many of you read the law books? How many of you understand the article and codes when it comes down to law? Because there's even different types of law. Like the brother just brought up commercial law. Well, there's entertainment law for the entertainment business. There's all different types of law when it comes down to the industry branch, city, or state that you're in. So how many of you are masters inside the American law? How many of you can recite the articles of the Constitution? How many of you have studied the American Constitution, you understand, in depth? I guarantee you it's going to be a lot of crickets, because who studies those things? The people who run the government, or the people who are a part of the law. The judges have to know it. Well, priests were judges. And as a result, they had to be masters inside of the law. That's what it comes down to. So, do you think the average farmer knew everything in the law? No. When he had an issue or a grievance, he brought it to his judge, and they judged the matter according to what Moses laid down. Everybody wasn't a master in the law. The aristocracy of our society was. The aristocracy in our society was the priest, was the judges. That's who they were. That's why even the king had prophets that he consulted with, because they were the ones who interpreted the will of the Lord and instructed him. That's why prophets were amongst the nobles, because the nobles and all these people were the governing bodies. They were the captains and the officers inside their region. You understand? They were the ones who sat down and interpreted these things that established with Moses when he said, take ye wise and understanding men and make them captains. You look at another translation for captain, it's chief. These were chiefs in the cities that you brought your issue to. There's a show. I hate to, you understand. I know we're a visual people. You understand? I hate to just use movies or shows, but there's a show called Outlander on Netflix right now. And it shows a lot of the feudal system. And the feudal system is also based off of the Bible. That's where a lot of these things come from with the hierarchies and in all these different societies. And one of the lords, that's what Otawan means. I hear it all the time. You understand? I hear somebody turn around and call me Otawan. And that means lord. A lord is somebody who rules over a region. Well, there was a lord of a clan, and he was the chief lord over all the clans. And the clans would come and pledge fealty to him. And also in pledging fealty, they would sort out their issues that they had among the chief lord, and he would make a judgment based on the rules and laws and traditions passed down inside their clan. And you can get a visual aid of this. If y'all watched Game of Thrones, the king would sit down and the people would come and he would give a judgment before the people based off of the issues, or even the dragon lady. When the dragon burned one of the dude's goats or child, and he brought the body before her, because that's what rulership did. They ruled over the lands in order to keep order. So that's how our government was. Our government would have different people inside these positions who gave judgments, and the people brought their burdens, and the rulers bared their burdens and heard, and then said, okay, he stole, you got to pay back this amount. Okay, he broke this on accident, this is how much you pay back, because we had a court system. And we would damn near have all the way up to like a Supreme Court. Like you have federal court and state court. And state court handles the local matters, the smaller matters, and the matters that they can't decide on, they bring to federal court or Supreme Court. And then they are the ultimate deciding factor inside of this. Well, that was Moses. So Moses set up these captains, these officers inside of his regions. And if they couldn't decide amongst themselves, they went and brought that to Moses, and Moses would make the final decision. Well, that was passed down. That's why we had the book of Judges. All the way on down to, you understand, when we have a king, and then you see instances like we brought this up recently. The woman who came in with the other woman saying she stole my baby. Now they're both fighting over the child. And Solomon is sitting down in a court case. This woman is suing the other woman for a child. This is my child. No, it's my child. Okay, cut the baby in half. Now, if some of y'all stop reading, you think, damn, he's heartless. That can't be lawful. That's in the law. Cut babies in half. Oh, but there was more to it. You got to hear the conclusion of the matter before you make a judgment. He said something outlandish to get to the truth of a matter. Sounds real familiar to me. So he turns around and he says, nah, whichever woman, this is what he said within himself, is going to give up the child, she loves the child that belongs to her. She says, no, she can keep her. She didn't want anything to happen to the baby. The other woman was like, yeah, give me the bigger half. And in Solomon's wisdom, he found out who the mother was, and he made a judgment and helped with that issue. That's how governments work. And as a result, you pay a tax to this government. Our tax in our government is tithes. Tithes goes to the priest. The priest have a salary, and they also take up collections so that now they can help the people. Now they can take care of the widow and the fatherless and those of the congregation so that this way they don't lack or need anything. And that's what we've been reading, and that's what we witnessed inside the scriptures, and that's what happens inside the ISUPK today. We are a government. We have a governing body. You understand? Captain Nazaryak rules over the Northeast. You understand? I have New England, and I report to him. And I have brothers under my command who report to me. You understand? And it is our job to make sure that these men are accounted for. It's our job to make sure that they are straight. You understand? It's our job to make sure we have evacuation plans for national or city disasters. During COVID, we made sure everybody had food and water. Where you think we got the money for this? Where you think it comes from?
Hey, Kadazar, we actually set up a payment plan for brothers to get money every week due to COVID. That's actually what we did. Where brothers, some brothers got 200, some brothers got 400. Brothers got money every week, so that the way they could be all right during COVID. I just like to point that out.
And it went at the water cap, and it went exactly according to need, because some people didn't need it. But to the families who did, Commandant General Yohana made sure that they had enough to be able to survive and pay their bills. Because he didn't go and buy a Rolls Royce. You understand? He went and made sure that you could feed your family. Because that's what a government is supposed to do. You know what else? And y'all hate hearing about this, so I'll never stop talking about it. You know what else Commander General Yohana did with that money? He spent over up to $10,000 to make sure that the Levites living under a bridge could get food, and sent his men along a drug route for the cartel, that they could have been captured and beheaded, to make sure that those brothers and sisters had food and diapers and formula and water. And no other organization did a damn thing for them. You understand? He's got brothers over in Detroit who send shipments of water over to Flint. You understand? But once again, y'all want to turn around and act like the law is evil. No, y'all better pay your tithes to Commandant General Yohana too. You get your 10%, you pay that man. Or else how the hell are you in the truth? And you telling me you can't even keep the law? That's actually an excellent question right there. Do you think like me? Where do I pay my tithes? Can somebody put the link in the chat? I'm going to put the link in the chat for you right now. So what I'm going to do is go to isupk.com. Just paid mine today too. I'm going to go to isupk.com. I'm going to let this load up, and then I'm going to click pay tithes, and it's going to take me to a link. And I'm going to copy this link, and I'm going to drop it in the chat for you. All right. Any questions on topic? If y'all got them, you could type them into the chat. Cap, I don't know if you got anything else that you want to add on to. And then I'm also going to look back onto YouTube. Hold on. Well, Kevin Williams, where are your priests? That's my question to you. If anybody wants to raise their hand, if you got a question, you're more than welcome to come up on stage. Yeah, he for sure did use reverse psychology when it came down to that. Solomon was extremely wise. All right, I don't see any other questions in the chat. I don't see any other questions on YouTube. Cap, you got anything else to add? Give him a second. All right. So with that, I'm going to switch gears. We got about 30 minutes left in class. I'm going to go ahead and move on from that topic, which I'm still going to speak on something that's like a little bit more relative, right? Because one of the things that I was talking about here was leadership. And that's something that, like, you understand, we've been failed in when it comes down to having leadership. Like, our leaders don't care about us. You know what I'm saying? The Christian church doesn't care about us. That's why, like I said, on Commander Jenny Hunter's show last night, was talking about a pastor who he berated his entire congregation because they didn't buy him a Movado watch. They turned around and he kicked everybody while they were down and said, "What? I'm not worth your McDonald's money." You understand? Like, that's unrighteousness. You understand, when it comes down to it, because there are unjust stewards. That's what it comes down to. So let me see. There's actually two places that I really want to go to, but you know what? I'm going to start with Luke, the 16th chapter. I'm going to go to Luke 16:1, all right? And it says, "And he said unto his disciples, there was a certain rich man which had a steward." Now, this rich man inside this parable is talking about the Most High. This steward is talking about those that are unworthy of the position. They are not the leaders. And the same was accused unto him, that he had wasted his goods. And he called him and said unto him, How is it that I hear this of thee? Give an account of thy stewardship, for thou mayest be no longer steward. So he's firing him from his position. And that's what you're going to see. There's a judgment coming down spiritually on the Christian church right now. That's why they're emptying out. Because they're not worthy of that position. They don't deserve the tithes. They don't deserve any of these things that they get. But now what happens is that he said, Then the steward said within himself, What shall I do? For my Lord taketh away from me the stewardship. I cannot dig to beg, I am ashamed. So he's not going to go work construction. You know what I'm saying? And outside of work and construction, he's not going to go beg. He's not going to be a panhandler. He likes living deliciously. He likes all this money and increase that he gets. I am resolved what to do. When I am put out of the stewardship, they may receive me into their houses. So this is how people stay in power inside of these churches and these false organizations that the Lord did not set up or establish. And he said, 100 measures of oil, so he called every one of his Lord's debtors onto him. Every Israelite is a debtor unto the Lord. We all owe. We're all supposed to be put to death. And it's because Yahushua paid for us that, you understand, like, our debt was paid. But it comes with a responsibility. And that responsibility comes with not only keeping the law, and yes, tithes is a law, but it also comes with putting in work to build this nation. And he saith unto the first, How much owest thou unto my Lord? So what is the Most High requiring of you? And he said, 100 measures of oil. And he said unto him, Take thy bill and sit down quickly and write 50. Now, you know us, man. We always want a deal. We always trying to haggle and knock things down. We never trying to pay the full price for anything, especially if it's a black or Hispanic owned business. You feel as though you don't have to respect that person and pay what they're worth. Well, we do the same thing to the Lord. We don't get the Most High what he's justly due. We don't give the Most High what he's actually requires. And there are men who see this and portray to still be the steward, portray to still be, you understand, the one that the Lord called. But they compromise. They allow you to stay inside your lust. That's what paying half is. Half is, okay, I go to church, but he's not making me stop smoking weed. And that's the thing. There's a religion for any sin that you want to commit. If you want to smoke weed, if you want to be a glorified hippie, Go be a Rasta. That's all you got to do. You understand? Rastafari. And now you smoke weed. Smoking weed is a part of your religion. If you want to be a child molester, go become a Catholic priest. And there is an entire organization set up to you molesting little boys. And nothing will happen to you. Full immunity. You'll never see a jail cell. They'll just move you like they do crooked police. Like a crooked cop who murders somebody just goes and works for a different police department. That's what they do with the priest. You want to be a drug dealer? Go be a Muslim. You understand? You sell crack, you get arrested, you go to jail, you convert for protection, and then you come out, and now you sell crack to everybody who doesn't have a beard. You want to be every disgusting thing under the sun, you go be a Christian. And Christian church will let you do whatever you so desire. Whatever your soul lusteth after, you could do inside the Christian church. You understand? Well, I'll tell you, there's an Israelite group for you, too. You want to molest little girls? You like sleeping with 12-year-olds? Go to GMS. Could do that. It's fine. You understand? There is a place you can go to compromise the truth of the Lord. Not here, though. Me and my house, we shall serve the Lord. The Lord want 100, he going to get 100. That's what's going to happen. So let's keep reading. And he saith unto another, how much owest thou? And he said, 100 measures of wheat. And he said unto him, take thy bill and write 80. And the Lord commended the unjust steward, because he hath done wisely. For the children of this world are in their generation wiser than the children of light. Because the children of light, they don't always like to be like Yaquab. They don't always like to be like Jacob. Jacob was a supplanter, a hustler. You understand? And we wanna be so right. We don't turn around and use cunning devices, but the wicked do. The soothsayers do. And they use it only for their own belly, only for their own benefit, only for their own lust and desires. Once again, y'all act like you in the truth in your fourth Israelite group. You know why? Let me explain what happens. You went to one group and you got into a fight with a brother, and the brother outranked you. And you didn't like that. You didn't like how he talked to you. So you left and you went to another group. And you didn't like what they required of you either. Then you started your own group. Now you're an elder. You watched 1,000 hours of YouTube. And now the Israelite group that you're in charge of is good. Why? Because you decide what the Lord requires. You decide if you're going to write down 50 or 100. And sometimes y'all decide to go and serve God where it's comfortable. I don't have to travel far. They're the closest to me. Let me go here. Oh, they're not harsh. Let me go here. And women forget it. Oh, they said one wife. Yeah, while they sleep with prostitutes behind your back. Because they're afraid to tell you the truth. I have another woman. We don't have that problem in here. Because we give the Lord 100% whether you like it or not. You understand? Well, y'all could be the club camp. Maybe y'all like to party. Maybe you like money on the floor and ass out. That's how y'all get down, chief priest. So it says, for the children of this world are in their generation wiser than the children of light. And I say unto you, make yourself friends of the mammon of unrighteousness. This is money that's gotten unrighteousness. See, tithes is righteous. Mammon of unrighteousness is what you pay to your pastor, because you're only in there paying him because he lets you do whatever you want to do. Because here you don't need discipline. Here you become a camp leader in 2 months. Here you get a t-shirt and now you're a part of us. Here you didn't have to pass a test to teach, because you would rather pay 80 instead of 100. Because it's too hard to pay the 100. It's too hard to give the Lord what he desires. That when ye fail, they may receive you in everlasting habitations, because they're comfortable. And you know what really needs to happen? This is what needs to happen for those inside of fake Israelite congregations, churches, Muslim mosque, all religions. When your leader fails, because this is what I asked the question of last night with the Christian pastor. When the Christian pastor turned around and revealed how wicked he was, the congregation has to turn around and say, what was inside me that I perceived him to be a leader? What's wrong with me that this wicked man led me? Because if the wicked is leading me, that means I'm doing wicked by proxy. So when you realize that, you have to look within yourself. And once again, the Bible is a mirror. Shout out to Captain Kahan. And also Captain Mashak. And ugly people hate to look in the mirror. You hate to look at your own lust and what is wrong with you. You understand? So you go somewhere that you don't have to look in a regular mirror. You go somewhere that they put a Snapchat filter on the Bible. Now you look better. But if you took that filter off, ugh, who wants you? Who's going to like your profile picture? Who's going to slide in your DM? Nobody. Because you don't want to clean yourself. You don't want to make yourself right. You understand? He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. If I look at you and you can't keep a basic law, like paying tithes, you can't teach me nothing. How can I trust you? You can't keep a basic law, like not edging your beard up into a chin strap or something like that. You want to be pretty? How you gonna teach me something heavy? You can't keep a basic law, like you can't even keep your ass out of a strip club setting. How you gonna teach me anything? Because you can't even be faithful in least. How could you be faithful in most? It's impossible. And he that is unjust in the least is unjust also in much. So if you're unjust in the smallest of matters, you're unjust in the largest. You're not fit for the position. You're an unjust steward. And you'll be removed. You'll get gone. You understand? All right, let me check. Hold on. Let me see if there's any questions. Let's see. I don't know what you're talking about with lone wolves. You're going to have to clarify that. Unless you're talking about individuals, which I say that. Let me see. Okay, let me see. Let me see. I don't know what you're talking about. You're going to have to clarify that part. Let me check this other chat. All right, I don't see any other questions on or off topic, so we're going to keep going, all right? So like I said, we were talking about leadership. We're talking about if somebody is right or not, because once you're in this position, you have a responsibility. So a part of that responsibility is, hold on, let me grab this scripture. Let's see if I like Luke's account first or Matthew's. They have one in Mark too. I'll probably let me start with Mark. We're going to go to Mark, the 10th chapter. Mark 10, and I think I'm going to start somewhere around 42. Let me see. You know what? No. I'm going to start at 35. All right, so this is Mark 10 and 35. And James and John, the son of Zebedee, came unto him, saying, Master, we would that thou shouldest do for us whatsoever we shall desire. So they come up to Christ and they're like, you know what I'm saying? We want you to do something for us. And he said unto them, what would ye that I should do for you? They said unto him, grant us that we may sit one on thy right hand and the other on thy left hand in thy glory. That's some bold shit right there, Salakia. Excuse my language. That's bold as hell. It's like you understand if that's the macrocosm. Let me get on the micro. That's like you walking in off the street and coming to Commanding General Yohana and being like, yeah, I want to sit at your right hand when General Muhammad right there. You know what I'm saying? Like, these cats want to be ranked 1 and 2 under Christ. That's what they just asked for. Yeah, that's bold, yo. I respect it, though. I hear you. But Yahushua said unto them, ye know not what ye ask. Can ye drink of the cup that I drink of? And y'all know Christ's cup. That was that same cup he asked the Father to remove from him. You understand that he was going to be put to death for the service, because this is what you got to understand. Being in charge in Israel is not about, just sitting up and people following your orders and your commands. Being in charge in Israel is about taking care of everybody that's underneath you. You understand? It's about counseling them. It's about bearing their burdens. And the problem is, so many of y'all think of bearing burdens like sisterhood, like just being a shoulder to cry on, somebody to vent to. That's not bearing a burden. Bearing a burden is, I'm about to get evicted, and I now feel like I am about to get evicted. So I listen to you. You're about to get evicted. We're about to get evicted. All right, let me find out what we're going to do here. I now have to solve your problem. That's why y'all don't understand the cup to drink of. That's why so many people are unfit for leadership. You're unfit for the position. You're not qualified. You're too selfish. Can't trust you with nothing. You're unjust in the smallest of things. You will be unjust in the greatest of things. But yeah, let me see. And be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with. And they say unto him, we can. And Yahushua said unto them, ye shall indeed drink of the cup that I drink of, and with the baptism that I am baptized with, ye shall be baptized. But to sit on my right hand and on my left hand is not mine to give. And that's what y'all need to understand. Like, when you go and start your own Israelite group, you in essence are saying, I am a leader and I'm giving this to myself. The Lord didn't give it to you. You gave it to you. You understand? Christ said, I can't even say if you're going to be at my right or my left hand. This is going to be yours. Listen, I didn't make myself a captain. I didn't give myself New England or Boston. I went and fought for it. You understand? Captain Zarak wasn't just given New York. You understand? I mean, he didn't just take New York for himself. He was given it. Somebody had to say, this is yours. Even his title, captain, my title, captain. You understand? General. We didn't name ourselves these things. But it shall be given to them for whom it is prepared. And when the 10 heard it, so now remember, these 2 are coming in, and they become the 12. But there was 10 others that were listening. They began to be much displeased with James and John, because it's like they've been rolling with Christ. They've been getting him his water. They've been following his orders. They left their family and everything. And now these cats come out the blue. They ain't been suffering with Christ as of yet. And they like, we want to be your number 1 and your number 2. And they looking like, yo, who do these niggas think they are? They think they're going to come in here and rule over us? They think they're going to outrank us? We earned our spot. We've been putting in work. So they start to argue amongst each other. In Matthew, it talks about how they argued amongst each other to see who would be the greatest among them. Greatest among them means rank. Who's going to be big bro? Big brother got a responsibility. And that's what we're about to find out about. So it says, but Yahushua called them to him and said unto them, ye know that they which are accounted to rule over the Gentiles exercise lordship over them. So like when you go and you look at how these other nations rule, right, in Israel, I mean, not in Israel. I mean, you could use Israel today, modern Israel, not our nation. They exercise lordship. They eat and devour. America, all these nations, they eat and devour everything around them and do nothing for the people. You understand? That's what they do. They do absolutely nothing but fill their own pockets. When they start a war, you think Joe Biden's going to war? He exercises lordship. He goes and demands your 18-year-old child to go die for him. That's what they do. They exercise lordship. And their great ones exercise authority upon them. But it shall not be so among you. But whosoever will be the great among you shall be your minister, meaning the greatest among you is the servant. Matter of fact, it says that in the next verse. And whosoever of you shall be the chiefest shall be servant of all. You understand? Captain Isupk is a captain of 13,000. And he has men underneath him that say Khan out of one Khan. And when they turn around and say that, they do that because he made sure that they didn't lose their apartment when the eviction notice came. It was his burden. You understand? When COVID came, he made sure everybody had food. Everybody drank. Everybody was healthy. Because all of them are his responsibility. Why do you think Christ washed feet? Christ washed feet because he turned around and said, I'm clean. Now that he's clean and he was the greatest, it was his responsibility to clean you. And Peter's like, no, why are you washing my feet? I should be washing your feet. This doesn't make sense. And he's like, if I don't wash you, you have no parts of me. So now Peter turns around and says, wash my whole body then. Clean all of me. Extra. And then after he cleaned them, he says, now you go clean everybody else. That's your job. That's your burden. That's what you bear when you are a priest or a prophet. And you don't muzzle an ox. And that's why the priest and prophets get 10%. Because they're supposed to get paid for this job. Do you like working for free? Do you put 40 plus hours in a week and then expect nothing in return? Well, here's the thing. We did this job free for years because we went in the field like the Levites. Because somebody's got to do the job. But just know, you understand, they took issue with that. Because the priests are supposed to be taken care of. Because they take care of you and put your needs before theirs. So that 10% is supposed to be sanctified because they take your life and put it over theirs. You come before them. That's what happens. Now, don't turn around and tell me that the law is the most important thing. The law is the most important thing until money's involved. You don't pay tithes, you don't keep the law. That's a fact. You are a sinner. If you sin in one, you sin in all. You might as well be a homosexual. You hate homosexuality? Then you should hate not paying your tithes. And once again, if you don't have a priest, how are you in the truth? Where's your priest? Where's your prophets? You don't have one? Okay. Hey, Lord be with you. You an individual. I heard gather yourself together. Yea, O nation not desired. Not stay to myself on the internet and comment and complain. Not I'm an individual. Okay. You want to be an individual? Duly noted. Got you covered. Any questions on or off topic with the last 5 minutes? Let me check the comments. Little Inca, you should go back and rewatch this entire class because you have no idea what you're talking about. And you sound like a sinner to me. Let me see. Whoever's raising you has failed you, little Inca. Failed you. Because they're not a priest. Y'all wouldn't even know what to do with a government. Y'all don't know how to take care of anybody else. You don't know how to raise nobody. All right, let me see if let me check YouTube. Oh, she goes to the congregation that murdered Joy Morgan? I understand. I understand. I get it.
Oh, she in IUIC.
Oh yeah, we love Joy Morgan over here though.
Yes, we do. You need to go teach them brothers how to not get beat with church shoes. Salah.
All right. Let me just I don't see anything else on YouTube. Let me go back to Club Deck. Just see a comment. I see people jumping down her neck. I ain't mad at y'all. Is it cool to give tithes to all congregations? No, it's not. There's only one body, one faith, one baptism. Stop talking rubbish about IUIC. No, I'll never stop talking about IUIC. The same way I'll never stop talking about the whorehouse known as the Christian Church, because y'all are one and the same. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Is there any place I can go to show sex is marriage before the ceremony after Moses besides Mary and Joseph? Yeah, you can go to Jacob when he married Rachel and Leah. So what happens is that he worked for Rachel, but when he went into the tent.
So you said after Moses, Salah.
I'm sorry. Oh, after. Well, that was actually before Moses. That's the best example I could give you. You got one, Cap? I don't. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, when Abigail went to David, there wasn't no ceremony that I know of.
That's a good one too.
So she just went. I want to say it says she became his wife with Abigail after her husband died. The Lord killed that bastard. I believe that it just says she became his wife. No ceremony.
Okay, I
I have
got
to
you.
look it up, but
All right, and then the last question is, how do I gather in place or state when there's no one else in the faith? Okay, what you want to do is you want to find out which captain is the closest to you. So I don't know exactly where you are, and call them and get in communication. I also can't see if you're a brother or a sister, because you have certain places where a brother will be the first one to come in, and then before you
yeah,
know it, she says
First
she's a,
Samuel 25 and 40. Salaki cut us out. First Samuel 25, 40 through 42. No ceremony, just says she became his wife. That's after Moses. Shalom. You're welcome.
the water.
Salakia.
And you're in Dallas, Texas. Okay, well, guess what? We're in Dallas, Texas. We have a school out there. So what you can do is, we're everywhere in Texas. We're in Dallas, Port Arthur, Houston, San Antonio, Rio Grande Valley, Austin. We literally have a physical building everywhere. So what you can do is go to isupk.com, and there'll be a contact list. And when you get inside that list, just go down to Texas or Dallas, and you'll be able to call. They'll get you in touch, sis. So we absolutely are there. No sweat, sis. You can check us out. All right. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end the class. The replays are going to be up for a little bit on Cross the Line. After this, it's going to be moved to Boston's channel. All right. So with that, pay your tithes. You can go to Isupk to do that. And Shalom. Yahushua Shabrak thumb to all my brothers. Yahushua Al Thab Hashem Yahushua to all my sisters.
Yeah,